Hello and welcome. We are on page number 21 of chapter 2 of ICAI study material on GST. Now, the topic what we are going to deal today is supply leviable to GST. For an activity or a transaction which is to be subjected to GST, first of all, there should be a supply. Now supply has three components. What are the three components given in supply? Supply has three components. What are those components? Those components are: one, supply. In order to be a supply, first of all, there should be components of supply. So what are the components of supply? Like what is that? Sale, exchange, sale, comma, transfer, comma, barter, comma, exchange, comma, license, rent, lease, disposal. So there should be any of the components, first of all. Next, there should be consideration. Next, it should be in course or furtherance of business. Now, if all these three are satisfied, it will be called as a supply, right? Now, does it mean that if an activity of or a transaction can be termed as supply, will GST be automatically fastened to that activity or a transaction? No, it can't be like that. Now, for a supply to be charged to GST, two other conditions should also be satisfied. What are those conditions? Supply must be made by a taxable person and supply must be a taxable supply. So, we will be dealing with the charge of GST in chapter number 3. But we will have a basic understanding here. So, for a supply to be charged to GST, two conditions are required to be satisfied. The supply should be made by a taxable person and the supply should be of a taxable supply. Now, we will understand the concept of supply by a taxable person. We already know the supply. It should have three components. One is components of supply like a sale, barter, exchange, blah blah blah. Two, there should be consideration. Three, it should be in course or furtherance of business. Now, for supply to be chargeable to GST, the supply should be made by a taxable person and the supply should be of a taxable supply. Now, what do you mean by a taxable supply? A taxable supply means no, let us do one thing. We will change this into this way. The supply should be made by a taxable person. So, where the supply is between two non-taxable persons, then GST can't be levied. But where a supply is made by a taxable person to a non-taxable person, then GST gets subtracted. If the supply is between two non-taxable persons, then there can't be GST. GST cannot be levied. But A is a taxable person, B is a non-taxable person, A supplies to B, then GST gets subtracted. Now, So taxable person should be the supplier, but recipient can be a taxable person or a non-taxable person in order to levy of GST. Then what do you mean by taxable person? A taxable person who is a registered person are liable to be registered under section 22 and or section 24 of the CGST Act. So whom do you mean by a taxable person? A taxable person means a person who is registered or who is liable to get himself registered under section 22 or section 24 of the CGST Act. We will deal with the concept of registration in chapter number 7. Now, there is a person who is liable to get himself registered, but he did not get himself registered. Now, will that person be called as a taxable person? Definitely yes. Because a taxable person means a person who is registered or who is liable to get himself registered under the provisions of the Act. So, where a person, though he is liable to get himself registered, if he did not get himself registered, but still that person will be called as a taxable person. Right? Next. Let us take another case. A person is not liable to get himself registered under the provisions of the Act, but he has got himself voluntarily registered under the provisions of the Act. Then he will become a taxable person because he got himself voluntarily registered. Now understand this concept very clearly. We have dealt with the two situations. One situation is that person did not get himself registered, though he is liable to get himself registered under the provisions of the Act. He will be called as a taxable person. A person need not get himself registered under the provisions of the Act, but he voluntarily got himself registered under the provisions of the Act. He will be a taxable person. Next, what do you mean by a taxable supply? So taxable supply means a supply of goods or service or both which is leviable to tax under the GST law. That is called as a taxable supply. Now we will understand this taxable supply in a detailed manner in chapter number 3. But here what we will simply understand is what is the activity or a transaction which will be subjected to GST. The supply of goods or services should be made by a taxable person, and the supply should be of a taxable supply. Whom do you mean by taxable person? A person who is registered under this Act or who is liable to get himself registered under section 22 or section 24 of the Act. A person, though he is liable to get himself registered under the Act, did not get himself registered, he will be a taxable person. A person not liable to be registered under the provisions of the Act but got himself voluntarily registered, he is a taxable person. What is a taxable supply? Taxable supply means the supply of goods or service or both which is liable to tax under the provisions of the GST law. However, for certain goods and for certain services, exemption may be granted, or a class of persons or a class of entities may be granted exemption from the supply. So, who are exempted or what are the goods or services which are exempted? We will discuss in chapter 4. Now, we will discuss certain exceptions to the parameters of supply. What are the parameters of supply? There should be components of supply like a sale, transfer, exchange, barter, etc. there should be consideration in the course or furtherance of business. Now, we will understand the exception to the component of supply, that is in course or furtherance of business. Generally, to be termed as supply, the component of supply, sale, exchange, transfer, etc. should be made for consideration and in course or furtherance of business. But there is one exception to the component in the course or furtherance of business. That is, what is that? That is the import of service for a consideration, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. We already dealt with one example for this. I want to construct my house. I appointed an architect who resides in US. He gave me the plan of my house. I paid him money for the plan which he gave me. I paid him $5,000. Now, here I am not constructing my office building. I am constructing my home to live there. Now, this is not in course or furtherance of business, but still this will be a supply. What is that? Import of service for a consideration. Activities without consideration, deemed supply. To be a supply, there should be consideration, but certain transactions or activities are given in Schedule 1 of the Act. Those activities or transactions given in Schedule 1 will be treated or deemed as a supply, though they are not carried out for consideration. So, if any activity or a transaction falls in Schedule 1, then it will be considered as a supply even though it is not carried out or it is not a transaction or activity for consideration. Under the previous tax regimes, one of the most important component for levy of an indirect tax was that a transaction or activity should be made for consideration. Where there is no consideration under the previous regime, indirect tax regime, that a transaction or activity was never chargeable to the indirect tax. But now there is a departure from that stand under the GST law. Under the GST law, for those activities or transactions which are given in Schedule 1 of the CGST Act, though there is no consideration, it will be treated as a supply. Now, what are those transactions or items which are given in Schedule 1? Permanent transfer or a disposal of a business asset. We already understood the meaning of transfer, did we? Yes. In the preceding class, we have already understood the meaning of a transfer. It is not defined, but we went into the dictionary meaning, or we went into the meaning given under the contract law or something like that. We also understood at length what is the meaning of disposal. We already defined the term business. So, permanent transfer or disposal of business asset, though it is not made for consideration, it will be chargeable to tax. Now, there is a rider to that. What is that rider? It is not that every transfer or disposal of business asset is treated as a supply. There are certain conditions. What are those conditions? the permanent transfer or disposal of a business asset will be treated as a supply, though there is no consideration only when input tax credit has been availed on such asset. Only when the input tax credit has been availed on such asset. This is the important condition laid down in point number 1 of schedule number 1. What does the first point in the schedule 1 state? Permanent transfer or disposal of business asset. We understood the meaning of transfer, we understood the meaning of disposal in our preceding classes. We also defined the term business. Now, when this transaction is made without consideration also, it will be treated as supply. But the condition is that the entity should have availed input tax credit on such business asset. So, where a business asset on which input tax credit has been availed, if it is permanently transferred or disposed even though not for consideration, then such a transaction or activity will be deemed as a supply. Now, let us say I have a business asset on which the input tax credit is blocked. So, the asset which I have bought, for that ITC is blocked or ITC is not available. Now I disposed that asset. Is it a supply? No, because I did not take the input tax credit, because it is a blocked credit. Once it is a blocked credit, I can't avail the input tax credit. Let's take the another example. I have purchased an asset for the purpose of my business. The ITC is not blocked on that asset. So what do you mean by ITC? What is a blocked credit? That we will deal in the ITC chapter. Okay. So I have acquired a business asset on which I am eligible for ITC, but purposely I did not take ITSC. Knowing that I can avail ITC on that asset, but still I did not avail the ITC on that asset. Now, I transferred or disposed of that asset. Now, is it a supply? No, because I did not take the ITC. Schedule 1 point number 1 will apply only when I took the ITC on that asset, else it won't be applicable. Now, can you tell me what is the reason? Now, what is the reason why a business asset, if transferred or disposed of, even though there is no consideration, why it is treated as a supply? We can understand it, or the logic behind this can be understood by this example what I will explain to you now. Let us say I bought a machinery for 10 lakhs. For computation convenience, I am writing it as 10 lakhs. The GST paid on such machinery is at the rate of 18 percentage, amounting to rupees 1,80,000. Now I took ITC of 1,80,000. Means I reduced this 1,80,000 from my tax payable. So what I have done is I have taken an input credit of 1,80,000 rupees from my tax payable. Now, when I am disposing of this machine, for, let us say, rupees 4 lakh, after I have used this machine for how many years? For 2 years I utilized this machine. But at the time of purchase of the machine, the cost was 10 lakhs, the GST was 1.8 lakhs. I took this 1.8 lakhs as a input credit. Now when I am selling this for 4 lakhs, now this transaction should be considered as a supply, because I have utilized this 1.8 lakhs. The 1.8 lakhs related to 10 lakhs. But what I am doing, for 10 lakhs worth of machinery, I have availed a credit of 1.8 lakh. Now when I am selling this machine for 4 lakh, what I have to do is, either I should pay GST on 4 lakh, or I should reverse the ITC availed proportionately. At least proportionately I should reverse the ITC availed, or treat this as a supply and pay. So how it has to be done? It will be given in the rules and the GST law or act. We will deal with this or discuss this at length when we come to that chapter. Now what do you mean by business asset? Business asset is not defined, but business is defined. We know that. Now we will examine whether this schedule 1 is applicable to the illustrations given here. D gives old laptop being used in his business to his friend free of cost. Now examine here. D has transferred or disposed of a laptop. Now that laptop is used in business. Now will this be a supply? There is no consideration, point number 1. Generally, if there is no consideration, what will happen? It will not be a supply. But under the special circumstances given in schedule 1, it should be treated as a supply. Now, if D has availed input credit on the laptop when it was purchased, then now if he gives to his friend free of cost, this should be treated as supply. Next, a dealer of air conditioner permanently transfers motor vehicle free of cost. So there is a businessman, he acquired motor vehicle for the purpose of his business. Now he is transferring that motor vehicle free of cost. Now, is it a supply or not? It can't be treated as supply because of the reason that motor vehicle is given in blocked credit. So, when this dealer of air conditioner, suppose that fellow is a dealer of a motor vehicle or who is engaged in running of motor vehicles for hire, then it is a different matter and he will get input tax credit. But this fellow is a dealer in air conditioners. When he purchases motor vehicle, it can't be treated, it is a blocked credit. Once this is a blocked credit, that fellow might not have availed the input tax credit on motor vehicle. Now if he disposes of with free of cost or without consideration, though this falls under schedule 1, the condition of availment of ITC is not satisfied, and therefore this transaction can't be treated as a supply. Let us say there is a holding company, there is a subsidiary company. Holding company transferred a asset to each subsidiary company free of cost. Now is it a supply? Yes, it will be a supply provided the holding company has availed input tax credit on that asset. Now, supply between related persons are distinct persons. That is second point of schedule 1. There is a supply between a related person or a distinct person, that too without consideration. It is to be treated as a supply. Now we should understand what is the meaning of related person and what is the meaning of a distinct person. What is the meaning of a related person and what is the meaning of a distinct person? Now here you have a rider. There was a rider for para 1 also. What was the rider for para 1? Provided ITC has been availed. Now what is the rider or condition for para number 2? That is supply between related party or distinct party. Here the condition to be satisfied is the supply is in course or furtherance of business. The supply between related party or distinct persons is in the course or furtherance of business. Now, whom do you mean by related person and whom do you mean by distinct person? Related person means a person will be under the influence of another person, like a family member. We already discussed the meaning of family. Family, who is a family? The spouse and children, right? Parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, wholly or mainly dependent on that person, on that individual. So, spouse and children, whether or not they are wholly or mainly dependent on the individual, they will be family. But parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, only when they are mainly or wholly dependent on that individual, they will be called as a family. Now what will happen? All these family members are related persons because one can influence the other person. Or you may also call a group companies, or a holding company and a subsidiary company are related parties. But however, this related party has got a meaning or a definition which has been given in section 15 of the CGST Act. So who are the related persons? Persons will be deemed to be related when or if such persons are officers or directors of one another's businesses. Such persons are legally recognized partners. Such persons are employer and employee. A third person controls, owns, holds directly or indirectly more than or equal to 25% voting stock or shares of both of them. Means there is a common person. There is X limited, there is Y limited, there is one A. A holds 26% in this company, A holds 30% in this company. Now these two entities will become related parties. A third person controls directly or indirectly both of them. One of them controls directly or indirectly the other. Such person together control directly or indirectly a third party. Such persons are members of the same family. One of them is the sole agent or sole distributor or sole concessionaire of the other. So all these persons are related parties. Just you understand that person, one person is under the influence of the other person, then they become related parties. Okay. Now Priya holds 30% of shares of ABC Limited and 35% shares of XYZ Limited. then what will happen? Here we have this 25% control concept. A third person means here Priya controls, owns, holds directly or indirectly greater than or equal to 25% of shares of both of them. So this example falls under this item of related persons. So Priya holds 30% of ABC Limited, 35% of XYZ Limited. So what will happen? Both ABC Limited and XYZ Limited becomes related parties. Now, Q has a deciding role in corporate policy or operations management and quality control of R Limited. Q Limited has a deciding role in corporate policy or operations management and quality control of R Limited. Now, Q Limited and R Limited are related because one is controlling the other. One of them directly or indirectly controls the other. So what will happen? Both of them will become related parties. So the basic thing what we have to understand is under para 2 of schedule 1, the supply is to be between related party or distinct persons. Now if the supply is between related party or distinct persons, though there is no consideration, it will be considered as a supply, but there is a condition. It should be provided in course or furtherance of business. Now we already understood the meaning of related person. Now we should understand the meaning of distinct person. Whom do you mean by a distinct person? Now the distinct person is specified in section 25 of the CGST Act. But if we want to understand the concept of distinct person, first of all, we should understand at least the overview of the concept of registration. Only when you understand the concept of registration, you will be able to appreciate the meaning of distinct person. Right? Now, though we will be dealing with registration in chapter number 7, just we will have a bird's eye view of registration. Who is required to get himself registered under the GST law? A supplier has to get himself registered state-wise. In which state I should get registered myself? I should register myself in each and every state or union territory where from I make taxable supply, provided my aggregate turnover should exceed a threshold limit. Suppose I am making a non-taxable supply from a particular state, I need not register in that state. Let us again recapitulate. Who has to register? A supplier has to register. Where should he get himself registered? He has to get a registration state-wise. In which state or union territory he has to register? From in each state and each union territory from where he makes a taxable supply. Now, the aggregate turnover, if it exceeds a threshold limit, then only he has to get himself registered. Otherwise, no need of registration. Suppose in a state that person is making a non-taxable supply only, then he need not get registered in that state. Now, registration is PAN based. Registration is PAN based. If how many PANs will a person have? A person should have only one PAN number, even though he is having multiple places of businesses. Let us say I want to carry on profession of chartered accountancy. I want to establish my head office at Vijayawada, branch office at Hyderabad, branch office at Bombay, branch office at Chennai, Calcutta and Nai Delhi. Right? How many PAN numbers will I have? I have only one PAN number. But where should I register? I should register in Andhra Pradesh because I provide a taxable supply from Andhra Pradesh. I should register in Hyderabad because I provide taxable service from Hyderabad. Similarly, in means Telangana, Hyderabad means Telangana, Bombay means Maharashtra, Kolkata means West Bengal, and New Delhi means New Delhi. So, at all these places, I should get registered if I am providing taxable service at each of those places. My registration is PAN based, right? Now, while making my registration in Andhra Pradesh, they will ask me what is your PAN number. I have given my PAN number. When I go to Maharashtra for registration, the Maharashtra, they will ask me what is your PAN number. Do I have a separate PAN number? I should give the same PAN number. I should give the same PAN number because I am an individual. I can have only one PAN number. Okay. So normally what will happen is in each state where I provide taxable service, I should take one registration. Let us say in Andhra Pradesh itself, I have 4 places of my profession. One is at Vijayawada, another one is at Tirupati, another one is at Visakhapatnam, another one is at Kurnool. So in Andhra Pradesh itself, I have 4 places of business or profession. Is it enough that I get a single registration or should I get a 4 registration? It is left to me. I can have a single registration for all the places in Andhra Pradesh, or I can have separate registration for each place in Andhra Pradesh. Right? Now we will leave the concept of registration there. We will discuss it at our later point when we go to the registration chapter. But now we will come to the meaning of distinct person. An establishment of person or establishments of a persons with separate registrations within the same state or union territory or in different states or union territories are considered as distinct persons. Now you understand. What I have done is I have a branch. I have a branch at Mumbai. What I will do? I will call it as Mumbai branch. I have head office at Vijayawada. I call it as Vijayawada head office. I have a branch office at Delhi. I call it as Delhi branch. I have a branch at Kolkata. Is this spelling correct? Maybe not correct. Is this correct? No, it is not correct. So what is the meaning of Kolkata? This is also wrong. My God. Why am I doing like that? Okay, Calcutta. Now what is the meaning, what is the spelling of Kolkata? Kolkata. Okay, Kolkata, Kolkata branch. Now all these belong to me only. All these are mine. That is of me, Ravi Kishore, Nitta Ravi Kishore. All of them belong to me. I have how many PAN numbers? I have how many PAN numbers? I have only one PAN number. I have only one PAN number. How many persons am I? I am a single individual. But still, Mumbai branch is a distinct person. Mumbai branch is a distinct person. Vijayawada branch is a distinct person. Similarly, Delhi and similarly Kolkata branches are distinct persons. Now what is happening is, suppose my Vijayawada branch has served Mumbai branch or made a service to Mumbai branch without consideration. Without consideration. Okay, it will be falling under para 2 of schedule 1. It will be falling under para 2 of schedule 1, though there is no consideration. There is no consideration. Even though there is no consideration. Now generally tell me, when generally will be treated as supply when it is made by one person to another person. Now here I am only one person, but I have four branches, but they are in different states. Okay, they are in different states. Each place of business has a different registration. Now each of them will be distinct persons. So as per para 2 of schedule 1, where the supply is made by a distinct person to another distinct person without consideration, it will be treated as a supply. It will be treated as a supply. Now let us say I will take another example. I will take another example. So what is that example? Let us say in the same state, in the same state, how many I have branches? In the same state, I have head office at Vijayawada. I have branch at Tirupati. I have branch at Visakhapatnam or Vizag. I have branch at what you call Kurnool. I have branch at Kurnool. Now, whether Tirupati branch and Vijayawada head office will be considered as a distinct person. Now, since all the four places are in the same state, all the four places are in the same state, if I get a single registration for all the four places, means I will get the registration for Vijayawada head office. I will add all the other places as a additional place of business, as a additional place of businesses. So head office I got registration, head office I got registration. All other places I added them as additional place of businesses in my main registration. Now all the registrations are same. Now these branches and head office will not be considered as a supply. Or what I mean to say is all these are not considered as these are not considered as distinct persons. These are all same person. These are all same persons. So if my head office supplies service to my Tirupati branch, it can't be treated as supply, though there is no consideration. It will not fall under para 2 of schedule 1. Para 2 of schedule 1. It won't fall because all the four have a common registration because all of them are in the same state. Now let us say I have an option to obtain separate registration for each and every place. So I took a registration at a Tirupati branch also. So automatically this will become distinct person because I have the option to take registration for each place of business in the same state as well. Then if I take registration for Tirupati branch separately, what will happen is Tirupati branch become a distinct person. Now once Tirupati branch becomes a distinct person, if head office provide service to this Tirupati branch, this is a distinct person and they will fall under para 2 of schedule 1 even though there is no consideration. Even though there is no consideration, this will become supply by virtue of para 2 schedule 1. Okay, now next. Here, section 25, subsection 4 deals with one kind of distinct person. Section 25, subsection 5 deals with another type of distinct person. So, generally, one 25.4, what does it say? A person who has obtained or is required to obtain more than one registration, whether in one state or union territory or more than one state or union territory, shall in respect of each such registration be treated as a distinct person. This is given under 25.4. So 25.4 is a situation wherein 25.4 is a situation wherein all these are in the same state and for Tirupati branch I got a separate registration. For Tirupati branch I got a separate registration and it will be called as a distinct person. Okay, now let us take another example. I also have I also have branch at Delhi. Branch at Delhi. I got a registration there. I got a registration there. Now this will also become a distinct person. This will also become a distinct person. Now this is as per section 25 subsection 4. As per section 25 subsection 4. This is as per section 25 subsection 4. Now what does 25.5 deal? 25.5 deal with a situation wherein I have an head office at Vijayawada. I got a registration. I have got a branch in Mumbai for which this is not registered because I make a non-taxable supply here. I make a non-taxable supply here. Now, these two should also be considered as a distinct persons, and if the Vijayawada head office, if it supply to Mumbai office or establishment, this will be treated as supply. Now, what is the difference between 25.5 and 25.4? 25.4 is a situation wherein in the same state there are two registrations, or in one state there is a registration, in another state there is a registration. If a supply takes between these two or supply takes between these two, this falls under section 25 subsection. But what is a 25.5? 25.5 is a situation, 25.5 is a situation wherein 25.5 is a situation wherein one is a registered place and the other is a non-registered place. I did not get a registration here because I make it non-taxable supply. So I did not take registration here. But still, in this case also, if Vijayawada is supplying to Mumbai, this will be treated as a supply. Okay? Right. Now, we will understand through example. Mohan is a chartered accountant registered in Delhi. He also obtained registration in West Bengal. Now, what will happen? This registered office in Delhi and registered office in West Bengal, both are distinct persons. If one supply to another, even though there is no consideration, if it is in the course or furtherance of business, it will be treated as supply. Now come to the another example, that is a 25.5 example. So 25.5 example, what it states is, what did 25.4 say? 25.4 said that registrations are obtained in the same state or different states. But here 25.5 what it say? Person obtained registration in one state in respect of an establishment, has an establishment in another state. Means this establishment is not registered. So here this is the example. This is not registered because we are making the non-taxable supply here. Since we are making the non-taxable supply, in the previous page what we have understood is that he is not required to obtain registration from a state from where he makes a non-taxable supply. So by virtue of this provision, what has happened? Mumbai, though it is making non-taxable supply, not registered. Vijayawada is making a taxable supply, now registration is taken. Vijayawada is supplying to Mumbai. This falls under 25 subsection 5. Okay. Now, let's visit this example. R Enterprises, supplier of and is a supplier registered, is having an air conditioned restaurant because non-air conditioned restaurant is exempt. Air conditioned restaurant is chargeable. Okay. Okay, whether non-air conditioned restaurant is exempt or not, we will deal with that in separately in exemptions chapter. Now, for now you don't or ignore that word which I have told you before this. Now, it has a liquor shop in Raipur, Uttarakhand for trading of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Now, alcoholic liquor from human consumption is outside the purview of GST. Is outside the purview of GST. Now, it is a non-taxable supply. Now, Rishabh Enterprises is not required to obtain for this liquor business. But for Maharashtra air conditioned restaurant, registration is compulsory. Now, if the Maharashtra air conditioned restaurant supplies something to the liquor shop in Uttarakhand, then though there is no consideration, this is in the course of or furtherance of business, thereby these two people are distinct persons and this supply will be subjected to or will be treated as a supply. This transaction will be treated as supply. Now come to the concept of stock transfers or branch transfers. Will they qualify as supply? Now let us understand that we will apply the previous examples here also. Now R Fabrics transfers 1000 shirts from his factory located in Lucknow to a retail showroom in Delhi. Lucknow is in one state, Delhi is in one state, right? The fabrics are subjected is a taxable supply. Is a taxable supply. Now the transfer is made from the one state to another state. He got registration for Lucknow factory. He got registration for Delhi factory. Both are distinct persons having separate registrations, of course under the same PAN number. But still this will be deemed as supply even though there is consideration and this is in the course or furtherance of business. So it is deemed supply. Now let us take another example. R Fabrics transfers 1000 shirts from factory located in Lucknow to retail showroom in Kanpur. Lucknow and Kanpur are they in the same state? Yes, it is in Uttar Pradesh. Both Kanpur and Lucknow are in the same state, Uttar Pradesh. What has happened is this fellow, this R Fabrics took a single registration for the factory located in Lucknow and he added the Kanpur retail showroom as an additional place of business in the registration of a factory Lucknow. So what will happen is both these places are in the same state and this fellow has a single registration. Now these Lucknow factory and Kanpur showroom can't be treated as a distinct persons. They are one and the same and so the transfer from Lucknow factory to Kanpur showroom is not at all a supply. Now suppose Lucknow factory's registration is separate, Kanpur showroom's registration is separate, though they are in the both in the same state. Then since there is a separate registration, they will be considered as distinct persons and that supply will be treated as a or that stock transfer will be treated as a supply though there is no consideration. Because if they have separate registrations in the same state, they will be considered as distinct persons. Now, supply of goods or services are both between employer and employee. Now, employer and employee are related persons. Now here we had the meaning of related persons given in an explanation to section 15. In the explanation to section 15, there is something called as employer employee. Employer and employee are related parties. Employer and employee are related parties. Now, if goods or services are both between an employer and employee, then though they are related parties, Schedule 3 of the CGST Act, what it says is services provided by an employer to the employee in the course of or in the relation to his employment are not treated as a supply. Are not treated as a supply, right? But what about gifts by employer to employee? Already in section 7, what we have learned is, in section 7, what we have learned is gifts by the employer to the employee, if it does not exceed 50,000 rupees in a year per employee, then it will not be treated as a supply. But gifts which are more than 50,000, if it is made without consideration, then when it is made in the course or furtherance of business, it will be treated as supply. Okay. What is the difference between gift and supply of goods or service, or both between an employer and employee? Employee, employer are related persons. But services provided by an employee to his employer in the course or in relation to his employment is not supply. Okay. Next, where gift is given by the employer to the employee. Now, what is a gift? Gift means it is not defined in the GST law. Gift, generally what we understand by gift means without consideration or voluntary in nature, it is made occasionally. So this employee can't demand the gift as a matter of right, and also employee cannot move to a court for obtaining a gift. Okay, that is the meaning of gift. So generally in para 2, where there is a supply between related or distinct parties, provide persons, provided in the course or furtherance of business. So if gifts are given by employer to the employee until 50,000, it will not be chargeable. But if it exceeds 50,000, it will be subjected to GST. Now, perquisite by employer to employee. Let us say we already understood that under Schedule 3, services by employee to employer in the course of contract of employment is not subjected to GST. It will be neither a supply of good nor a supply of service. So, it can't be subjected to GST. So, whenever a payment or a facility is given by an employer to his employee in terms of contractual agreement of the employment, that will not be subjected to GST. Also, where the employer gives the facility of membership of a club, health center or fitness center free of charge to all the employees, it will not be subjected to GST. Also, where the employer gives free housing to employees and such a housing is provided by virtue of a contract of employment, and that to C2C. C2C means cost to company. So at the time of giving the employment, in the employment contract itself it is mentioned that the employee will be given a rent-free accommodation. That will also be not subjected to this GST. Now this is given by clarification of through press release dated 10th of July 2017 by the Ministry of Finance. Okay. Now the first concept or para number 3 is principal agent. This we will discuss in the next class, but what we will do is just we will revise what we have understood today or what we have learned today. What we have learned today, we have started from page number 2.21, supply leviable to GST. What we have understood is that the supply should be made by a taxable person. We have understood the meaning of taxable person, and it should be a taxable supply. Now we understood the exception in respect of this supply should be in the furtherance, in the course or furtherance of business. There is one exception, import of service for consideration. Sometimes activities without consideration will be also be deemed as a supply, means those items which are given in this schedule 1. In schedule 1 we have first para, permanent transfer or disposal of business asset. Here the condition is on that business asset you should have availed input tax credit. If you did not avail input tax credit, it can't be treated as a supply under schedule 1. Para number 2 is with relation to supply between related or distinct parties or persons. We understood the meaning of a related party, and we also understood the meaning of a distinct person. Now, what will happen if there is a supply or stock transfer between branches? If they have separate registrations, it will be deemed as supply. If they have common registration, it will not be deemed as a supply. What is the supply of goods or service by an employer to his employee? Employee, employer are related parties, but in schedule 3 of the CGST Act it is mentioned that the services provided by the employee to his employer in the course of contract of employment is neither a service nor good, so it can be subjected to GST. What about gifts by employer to his employee? Employee, employer are related parties. Where employee gives gift to the employee, it should be chargeable, but up to a threshold limit of 50,000 it is not chargeable as provided in section 1 of the CGST Act. If it exceeds 50,000 rupees, it will be chargeable to tax. What about perquisites? Schedule 3 states that the services provided by employee to employer in the course of contract of employment will not be is neither a supply of service nor a supply of good. Therefore, it is outside the GST. However, in the sense, we may take the example of a membership of a club or a health or a fitness center, etc. If it is provided to all the employees, it will not be subjected to GST. Also, rent-free accommodation provided by the employer to his employee in the terms of contract of employment, that also will not be treated as a supply. Now this has been clarified by press release by the Ministry of Finance on 10th of July 2017. So friends, we have revised what we have learned today. So see you in next class.